Rachel is a wife, mom of four, and the founder of Money Mom Club, a supportive community that helps women simplify their finances, master grocery budgeting, and feel confident with money. She's passionate about making financial wellness feel doable and empowering, especially for busy moms. When she's not coaching or creating practical money tools, you'll find her juggling real life with teaching fitness classes and eating yummy food, which is a no-brainer why we're connected. My good friend Rachel, she's helped so many families, and I cannot wait for her to share her tips and her wisdom with you, especially with the state of the world right now. I know we're all thinking about it, and this isn't our typical topic on the pod, but I have a hunch that we will absolutely dive into the psychology behind money and how it could be affecting your athlete's confidence. So let's jump into today's episode. Rachel, welcome to the pod.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So I've started asking this question. I like this question so much better, and it's very simple, and you get to take this wherever you want to take it. Tell us about Rachel. Who is she?
Oh, this is fun. This is a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure to answer in one question, Amanda. I think you explained it perfectly, like what I do in the world and how I help people with their finances and helping women specifically talk about money, learn how to deal with the money in their financial family. I really believe that women have such a power as becoming the financial CEO of their family. And as my own journey has taken me, you said I'm a mom of four kids. That was the start of it all, was when I left the workforce to stay home with my children, to be a stay-at-home mom. I love being with my kids, and that is so important to me. But I felt like a part of me died when I left the workforce because it was like I took that paycheck, that external validation from society, and I got rid of that. And it wasn't until I realized that as a stay-at-home mom, I have an amazing power. And even if you're not a stay-at-home mom, even if you're a working mom, you also have a power to budget correctly, save money where it's important, build money where it's important, and really run the family. We know that moms are running families, right? We're the ones that are scheduling. We're the ones that are taking the kids to softball practice. We're doing all of those things, but we're also paying off the credit card bills and paying the mortgages and all of those types of things. And so when we can combine and empower women to really sit at the table of their finances, I think we change the world. And that's what I do, what I am. That's a small portion of who I am. There's so much more that we could talk about. Lots of passions. I love being outside. I love exercising. I love my family, all of the things.
All of the things. And literally the phrase that I wrote down is empower women. I mean, really that's why you and I are connected. It's about empowering women, whether it's a softball athlete or a mom that's trying to, literally manage the home and run the family, and literally running two practices and food and all the things. So you help moms in a lot of areas. So maybe it would be good to kind of start there of like you're
Sure.
kind of the expert on
Sure.
all the things. So you've got a couple of pillars. Can you kind of talk about your pillars of what you teach?
Yeah, and I'll try not to go too deep into each one because we could spend hours on each one. But I think you said it perfectly when you said that this affects everything. Money affects everything in our life. It's pervasive in all of our relationships, the way we show up in our marriage, the way we show up for our kids, what we're teaching our kids, the way we feel every day, a day in and a day out, the stress that we feel, the emotional load that we have on our shoulders. A lot of our experience in the world stems from money and how we view money and how we feel about money and whether we have a bill to pay that we don't know how we're going to pay. There's we could talk about that for hours. So I think that's really important that when we can step back and recognize how do we view money, how does money affect us, and what is our relationship with money, that is the key to unlocking peace, happiness, and long-term wealth. That's the most important thing. In in the Money Mom Club, you touched on this, my community, we talk about four different main pillars of finances. And it's a little bit I would say it's not a normal thing that most people talk about, our first pillar, but I do believe it is the fastest and easiest way to have extra money every month, and that is focusing on your grocery spending. right? And this is gonna like people are gonna be like, wait, I thought we were talking about money. Why are we talking about grocery budgeting? But when I was starting my own journey, I felt really overwhelmed trying to run the finances. I felt really overwhelmed by the budgeting spreadsheets and the numbers and trying to make sure all the categories were figured out. But when I looked at our grocery spending and I saw that we were spending $1,200 a month on groceries alone for our family of six, and this was back in 2020. So you can imagine how much that number would be now. I was blown away and also was like, I think that's the one budget I should focus on. Get rid of all the other budgets that we're spending money on. Let's just focus on this one budget. And through a lot of trial and error, it took me a while, but I was able to cut my grocery spending by $500 a month. That's $7,000 a year just from that one budget alone. And what I realized through that process was that I could still eat healthy food. I could still eat whole foods. I could still fuel my body the way that I wanted to and needed to fuel my body. And we were saving so much money. And what that did was it created a foundation for a bigger problem, which is intentional spending, making sure that where we want our money to go is where it's going. And a lot of times families are spending so much on groceries because they think that that's just how it is now, right? Inflation has made groceries so expensive. But by focusing on that one budget alone, we can really get extra money every month, which then can help pay off debt, stop living paycheck to paycheck, gives you a buffer zone for your finances. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I was a personal trainer for a long time, and they always said that the best success of a client losing weight would be how much weight they lose in the first month. It wasn't the long term. It was they see progress right away. So that's always stuck with me of like, we got to get people in and we got to give them wins really quick. And so
You're saying psychologically, if they can
psychologically,
see that
yes,
my
sorry.
hard work is paying off,
Yes.
they're going to stay in it with the long haul. Yeah.
Yes, they're going to be motivated to keep going. And if they don't lose weight in that first month, you're going to have a much harder time keeping them and getting them excited about losing weight. It's the same thing with our finances. If you're not seeing progress right away, why would you keep doing it? Why would you feel like this extra energy putting towards your finances is worth it? That's why grocery budgeting is so important. So that's the first pillar. Once we create that foundation of like, now you're thinking about money differently in just that one budget, then we can go deeper into finances as a whole and budgeting as a whole. And how do we make sure that our values are aligned with our spending? I'm not about restrictive budgeting. That was one of the things that turned me off for budgeting for so long, was because I didn't want them to tell me that I couldn't go drive through McDonald's and get my Diet Coke when I wanted to buy the Diet Coke, or the Starbucks, or whatever it is. I couldn't get the takeout when I wanted to go out to eat. But when we can really merge these two worlds together of like, what's important to you, that's where your money should be going. And you get to decide what your values are and how can we build your financial landscape, your budgeting around what's important to you. So that's the next thing we hit on. The third thing we talk about is the investment world and how to build long-term wealth. It's not just about men in suits on the stock market exchange. I think for so many women, and I see this with our community, is that women feel really overwhelmed when it comes to the world of investing. And most of the time, that's on the husband's shoulders if they have a partner. They don't know where the investments are going. They don't know what to invest in. They aren't investing. And so we just really make it very simple, teaching people how to build wealth for the long game. And then the fourth and final pillar is all about side hustles and how, as a mom, if you're busy, you don't have time to go out and work a 9 to 5 job to bring in money. And in fact, I don't believe in that at all. I think there are so many easy ways that don't take a lot of time that you can bring in 50, 100, 500. We have women making $1,000 a month just from something simple out of their home. And so we talk about saving money with the budgeting. That only goes so far. You can only cut back your budget so much. Then we have to talk about ways that we can increase the money coming in. So really, it's pretty robust in that respect. We talk a lot about healing your relationship with money, money mindset, that kind of stuff. So anyways, really passionate about this. I could talk about this all day, Amanda. I'll turn it over to you.
And I've seen it. I think that's the cool thing is as your friend and as someone who's been in business coaching with you and our connections, which also you are. So Coach Kara is your sister.
Yes.
This is like so fun. So these ideas of like, I can give you an example of how this applies to our audience on all four of those pillars. And so we have a lot of softball parents, a lot of softball coaches. The joke is that we can eat dinner at 4 or we can eat dinner at 9. So I'm
Yeah.
already imagining, okay, in the grocery pillar, I know how much money is I don't want to say wasted, but I know how much money goes out the window because here are these groceries in our fridge, but we're so busy running to practices and lessons and scrimmages and games and tournaments that we get home from a tournament on Monday and I have to throw out all my groceries because we didn't plan, we didn't use them, or we're spending $60 at, Chipotle or wherever because we just had to run and get food, or Chick-fil-A, whatever that is. Right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I can think about the grocery. I can think about the intentional spending of like, a lot of softball parents get a lot of flack. One bat is $500. And these girls are getting bats almost every season. Bats break. They're getting, these kids have thousands of dollars strapped to their back. So, if you're going to be intentional spending on that as a softball parent, it's like you can buy the $500 bat.
Totally.
But it's going to take some planning on other ways. The investment side, I think parents are thinking about investments is like, I'm spending thousands of dollars as an investment for my daughter to get a college scholarship. It's like, what percent of them are actually going to get a full ride scholarship? Right.
Yeah.
And side hustles. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I feel like more softball parents want side hustles because we want to be there for our kids. We want to, this all makes sense, Rachel. This makes so much sense. Where do you want to take this?
Oh my gosh, we could talk about so many different things. One of the things, okay, so I do want to hit on the fact that busyness is really hard when it comes to budgeting and dinner. Let's talk about dinner specifically. We have a lot of members who are in the same boat where they have kids in, high demand sports where you're gone from 4 to 9 p.m. What do you do? How do I justify the grocery spending with this lifestyle that I live? And again, I just want to say, chances are nobody taught you how to correctly plan, shop, and cook for your family, right? Nobody sat me down. My mom didn't sit me down when I went off to college or when I got married and say, this is how you do this. Like it was, I literally started figuring it out when we got married, and then I had kids, and then I tried to figure it out again. Most of the time we're running on chaos mode. Let's be honest, right? We're running on chaos mode where we haven't thought about the week ahead. We haven't figured out when the tournaments are, when the games are, and we haven't planned our life accordingly. This isn't about you have to follow this schedule and you have to eat this meal and you have to do this thing in order to be successful. No, this is about you taking power back in your life and saying, this is what our life looks like in this season or this week or this weekend. And this is what I need in order to be successful. And maybe that means you're going to plan one night where you go get Chipotle, you take the night off and you go enjoy a dinner out. But then on the other nights, because you're trying to save money so that you can put money in other places, right? That's what we've decided is if groceries aren't one of your high value categories and paying for your kid's softball coach is, then let's find that extra money in our grocery budget so that we can put it somewhere else. And let's be more intentional in that area of our life so that we can have the money to spend that's more important to us.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it's this mindset of I always say stand in your power. You said bring, get back your power. It's like you're not powerless to this. I think in the state of our economy and the state of the world right now, I think we just we slap labels on it, right? Of like, oh, inflation, or oh, she broke her bat, or oh, we have to buy this. It's like, well, if you were able to step back and say, okay, where is my power in this? You actually have a lot.
Totally.
You've taught me a lot.
Totally.
So,
Well, and that's how when we talk about relationships with money, and I could talk a little bit about my own journey and healing my own relationship with money. So often we allow money to dictate how we show up in the world, how we feel about things. The kid breaks the bat. How angry are we? And we don't kind of just sit in and allow money to flow into us and out of us. And we can't dictate a lot of things. We cannot dictate inflation. We cannot dictate the economy and whether the market's going up or going down. So why would we let that affect us internally when we get clouded over by what we can control? And when we are so angry or so frustrated, we lose sight of what's important to us and where we can change things and where we can affect our financial situation. When you think of money with a clear head, then everything changes. But
Yeah.
so often there's so much emotional turmoil, checking the bank account, checking the investments, checking those kinds of things. It produces so much emotion, whether good or bad. And we have to be really careful, like if we're giving our power to money.
Well, so here's a really interesting fact for you is I think I can joke about this. I think most of the time, softball parents, I would love for you to DM me. Please DM me on Instagram because I want to know your we need to like settle the score. I think most of the time parents are like pretty secretly proud when their daughter breaks a bat. It's more of like the unintentional pressure when they're not performing. So like if you break a bat,
Mm.
you're crushing the ball. Well, unless you need it on warranty. Well, that's another thing. But I wrote this down. I would love for my families to reflect on this. Like, if you could reflect on this, this is what I wrote down. Is money what's causing you to feel this way about your daughter's performance or lack of performance?
Hmm.
Because so often what I see, and I see this in my one-on-one client sessions, is a lot of the times the kids will come to me and they're feeling the pressure. Their number one pressure is fear of letting their coaches, their teammates, and their parents down. It's a
Mhm.
fear of letting others down. And so subconsciously, when you're talking about how expensive that bat is, or how frustrating it is that we're spending so much on lessons, but you're not hitting well in game day, or why is it not transferring? You have to, you have to be successful. You have to hit well. We're paying for all of this, right?
Hmm.
What kind of subconscious message is that sending to our children?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, this is this is something that goes beyond softball and
Mm-hmm.
this world, but how are you showing up for your kid when it comes to money? And again, the pressure that you could, and unintentionally, right? You're
Yeah.
not meaning to do that.
Yeah.
This is not, but what messages are your kids taking in and what are they internalizing? And then how is it affecting them, right? How is it affecting their performance? How is it affecting because of all of these layers of pressure? And as a parent with my own children, how I speak about money has to be I have to be very, very careful. And I mess up. And it's okay if you mess up. It's okay if you
Yeah.
haven't been perfect in the past, right? We're always a work in progress, but we can be really careful about the scarcity that we have with money, even if it is scarce in our own situation, even if we are worried about all the money that we're spending and how our kids performing, do we put that on our kid or do we keep that and work on it on ourselves? And I think your kid, again, like I said, when money starts to cloud our vision, it affects everything and it'll affect your kid and how they perform. So if that is an issue that you have, I would really recommend keeping that to yourself and work, you have to do your own mental work in order to not put that on your child. Um, because I think, there's a bigger issue as well with that.
Yeah. I even think about a simple thing that I would kind of put back on parents is especially the young, I'm talking about youngers. Like I have 9, 10, 11, 12 year olds. Maybe when they're older, like high school, maybe you can talk about these things, but I also don't think that these conversations are even things we need to be talking about in front of our kids,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Of like do they even understand the brevity of your team? Do they need to know what the team dues are? Do they need to know how much the bat costs or the lessons cost? Because I think so often what stops a lot of kids from getting help, even with a mental performance coach, is I'll be speaking with an athlete in the DMs and they'll say, Coach, I really need your help. I want to work with you. I almost always direct it to the parent because if I'm sending that information to a child, they get sticker shock. because
Mm-hmm.
that would be like the equivalent of telling your athlete how much the medical bill was for counseling. Even though I'm not a traditional counselor,
Yeah.
they would have guilt around that, and they wouldn't spend that money themselves because they're in a limited mindset of what are they spending money on, a
Yeah.
$5 Starbucks or and maybe they're shopping at Lulu and they know how much Lulu's cost and all the expensive things that teenagers are buying, but they're not necessarily going to advocate for themselves as soon as that money comes into the conversation.
Right. And we know as parents that there is like ROI investments and there's like, experience investments and there's mental investments. I mean, I 100% believe in coaching to be the best investment you could ever make in yourself. But yeah, kids don't really understand that. And I don't think it's something you need to hide from them necessarily. I think it is important to talk about money. It's not like I would never talk about money in front of my kids. No, absolutely. I want them to
Yeah,
see how I process making decisions.
there you
And
go.
if they
That's what I was
see,
missing.
there you go. If they see, like, so let's say my son, we just signed him up for football. He loves tackle football. We signed him up for football and it was $750 for the season. That's a lot of money, right? It's an investment.
Mhm.
And he knew how much it cost. We talked to him about because I wanted him to value it. I didn't want him
Yes.
to think that this is just something flippant that we're just signing you up for. We sat him down and we said, "Is Caleb, is this something you actually want to do?" And we had that conversation. Is it something that you're willing to invest yourself in, time, energy, that kind of thing? Because mom and dad are now investing in you. And we value this experience for you. And we're all about with our financial situation, we're all about putting things towards what we value. And
Mm.
sports and that type of fundamental coaching and things like that, we want that for you. So this is worth it to us. We have the money and we want to put it towards this. So then he knows in his mind, my parents are investing in me. And it's
That's
not
the
it's
difference.
not an
That's
it's not a pressure.
magical.
It's not like you have to perform, you have to be a starting player, you have to do this thing. It's like, no, we see this as so much bigger than just playing a sport. This is
Mm.
building you, your character, who you are, learning how to work on a team. That's what we're investing in. And so we're taking the pressure off performance and we're putting the pressure on him as an individual. So I
Oh,
think
I
I think
love that.
having
I
the
love that.
conversation is important. And I think your kid, honestly, I if and I might not be, people might disagree with me, but I actually think your kid knowing what you're investing is important because they need to know, is this valuable to me enough? Right? Because they're going to be doing this with money at some point and they're going to have to make the
Sure.
value proposition. Is it worth it? Is my value aligned with what I want to spend money on? And they say, well, my parents did this and this is how they made this decision is important.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Well, so one of the other things I wrote down is how do you support your daughter's sports journey financially? And so if you were to give some practical tips for softball parents, knowing that softball is a relatively expensive sport, I mean, obviously we talked about groceries. Are there other areas that you could kind of like give some quick insight into?
Yeah, there's a lot of levers that we can pull when it comes to budgeting and finding areas that you can save money on. Everyone is so different and everyone has different, you know, areas that they might be overspending on. One of the things that we can really focus on is you just knowing the numbers. Right?
Mm.
So often we don't even know the numbers. We're just swiping the credit card and paying it off. And so just getting intentional with like, I actually know where my money is going gives you the opportunity to see where you may be overspending or where, there could be extra money. That's exactly what happened with me when I looked at our budget and I saw that groceries were so high. I was like, the light bulb went on and I was like, this is where I'm going to focus. You may have a different budget that you can focus on. So that's one of the things that you can do. And then another thing is the side hustles, really like thinking about ways that you can increase the money coming in without going out and getting a job, without getting a pay raise. Those are sometimes things beyond your control, but there's a lot of ways as a mom that you can bring extra money in. And it doesn't mean you have to spend hours every week doing it. One of the things that I love is, and we just taught this in a master class, was selling crap on Facebook Marketplace. How much stuff do you have in your house that you're not using or that's just sitting in a closet and sell it on Facebook Marketplace? Like we've had people make over $1,000 in the month of April, which is when we're recording this podcast, just on
Wow.
Facebook Marketplace alone. So there's a lot of ways. I actually, when I taught the class, I told a story about, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I ended up buying an item in bulk that was super cheap, way below market value. And I resold it on Facebook Marketplace and I made $1,500
Wow.
just from doing that. So there's so many ways that you can bring money in.
Yeah, I love that. I think part of the thing is going back to this idea of where's your power, right? You're not powerless. And I think we can get really creative. I've had this thought ever since I graduated from college. I knew that when we had kids, we were going to be right back where I was growing up playing travel softball. And as a coach, I'm at the fields and now these tournaments, Rachel, some of these tournaments now start on Thursday. And so, or
It's
even if you have a
crazy.
game on Friday, you have to travel. It's like,
Jeez.
how are parents dipping into their PTO,
Mm-hmm.
paying for these hotels, and being there, and then not getting home till 2 a.m. and then turning around and getting to work on Monday or having to skip work on Monday? It's like, well, if you're already taking that PTO and it's a travel day or you have that open space, having an entrepreneurial side hustle is like a perfect fit for
Totally.
competitive sport families.
Totally. The flexibility that you have owning your own business is it's the best. It really is. And you don't have to create a full-fledged business, right? Like sometimes that can be overwhelming for people. There's, start as just working as a VA, start doing little side things for other people. And it could grow into something bigger. But yeah, that flexibility is so important with, I can't believe Thursdays. It's crazy. Like, do they not know that people have lives?
Well, I even think about, I'm open about how long ago I played, but even just 10 years ago, actually, nope, that would be college. 15 years ago, my parents couldn't afford, we would go to the Sparkler tournament. It's a week-long tournament in Colorado that falls kind of over 4th of July. And I remember riding with my coach, my sister and I rode with our coach. Rachel, how this was legal, I don't know. My dad literally gave us hundos to like pay for the hotel in cash. And
What?
we would like have a bunch of it. Like we had 4 girls staying in obviously our coaches would check on us, but my parents couldn't afford to take a week off of work.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we would go to these tournaments and stay a week long. But now it's like these
Wow.
families we might as well make a vacation out of it. So you go to the Sparkler for a week, you go to PGF for a week, you go to Alliance for a week. There's like 3 week-long tournaments or 4-day tournaments that these athletes are doing. And if you're listening to this, you're nodding your head. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is our world.
Yeah. This is a world that I have no idea. I don't know anything about it. But yeah, that's a huge investment, time and money for sure.
Yeah. One of the things that comes up for me, I would love your opinion on this, is you had mentioned that you always believe that coaching is always a great return. And I think that's easy for us to say as entrepreneurs because you and I have invested in the same mastermind. You and I have invested in the same coaching mentor. And for us, I think it's easy to justify that because we have a return on investment. We're growing businesses, we're creating bigger impact. But I think sometimes, like for my demographic, we have a lot of softball families that are considering signing up for mental training, and it's not tangible.
Yeah,
It's
there's
not,
no
you're not getting a
ROI.
bat. You're
Yeah.
not, there's no ROI. So like, what's your mindset on that?
Well, I will say, I was actually just talking to my husband about this because the business ebbs and flows, and sometimes it does better than others. But if I were to close doors and say, I'm done running a business, this is too hard, too much investment, all of that. Even if I had lost money in the process, this process has been 100% worth it because of the person that has made me become. Entrepreneurship was just the vehicle to my self-help, to my self-discovery, to learning about myself and becoming a better person. The way that I show up in my world now versus what it was 5 years ago is completely different. My relationships are different. The way I parent my children is different. My happiness, like the joy that I experience every second of every day is completely different. It's not because I'm running a business. It's because I put the coaching in and I learned the mindset and the help and did the work on myself. That was the real change that's happened. And so even if, again, this goes back to like, what do you value in life? What do you want out of life? What are you wanting to experience in your journey? Do you want to experience more fullness? Do you want your kid to experience a better life than you had? Not just physical things, but like mental, what they're experiencing, the mental health that they have. Do you want them to have that? Do you see the value in that? And you have to believe in that yourself. You have to know that it's worth it in order to invest in your own child. Um, but I just think when I think of my own experience and I've watched other people invest in themselves, whenever anybody invests in themselves, I mean, we have billions of dollars being spent on therapy and people going and seeing counselors. That's because Americans value that. Um, because we see the benefit. It's not a physical, tangible ROI. It's a mental, emotional ROI that I think
Right.
is more important than the tangible.
Yeah, it's why we sign our kids up for these experiences, like you said with the football. It's like that. I'm
100%.
not signing them up for football. I'm signing them up for what it's going to help them become. And if we can do this at a younger age, which now you're helping moms that maybe didn't have this opportunity.
Yes.
So
Yes.
can we shift that? So we're kind of, you and I have a same mission, empowering women,
Yes.
different demographic. So how can people find you, and how can we learn more about Money Mom Club?
Yeah, so I have my own podcast as well. It's called the Money Mom Podcast.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, and I'm also on social media. Hey, Rachel Coons, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the places. But I also talked about my community. I have a community. It's called the Money Mom Club, and it's where we dive into these pillars. I teach from a method to help you save money on groceries, to help you jump into all these different areas of money. Um, our members save an average of $600 a month just from working with our method. And really, really like the change that happens when you get in a container. And Amanda, you facilitate this so beautifully with your athletes. Something changes when you join a community, when you get in the room with like-minded people who have similar goals, similar desires as you, and coaching in the correct coaching. And so that's what the Mom Club is. It's the people that say yes to this experience and wanting that help. And we can drop the link below in the show notes if anybody wants to
Perfect.
check it out. DM me on Instagram. I'm always there. I'm in my DMs all the time. So if you have questions, please reach out.
I love it. Thank you for sharing all of your tips with us and your wisdom. And I'm glad I opened your eyes to the psycho softball world. So
Yeah.
now
I
you
don't know.
can.
I don't know if you've sold me on the softball world though, Amanda. I don't know if any of my kids will play softball.
Aren't you in California? You're like in the mecca of
Yes, no,
crazy
I know. My
softball
son's
world.
my son started playing baseball this year and he absolutely
Aw.
loves it. But I only have one daughter, so I
Well,
don't
so
know.
now when you have moms that come into your money club and they immediately say, my daughter plays select softball, your heart's literally going to pour out to
I'm
them
gonna
because
know exactly.
you know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Let's help you. I got you. Come under my wing. Let's help you out.
I love it so much. Okay, well, till next time, thank you so much for your time today. This was an amazing conversation.
Thanks for having me.